Here is a piece of badly burned paper from the Estonian Historical Archives, taken with white lighting on the front of it. Here is the same piece of paper with infrared light illuminating it. It can be clearly seen that some of the text which would otherwise be hidden is now easily read. First book printed in Ge'ez, the religious language of Ethiopia. The college at King's College London has had ink inadvertently spilled on one page. That image is taken with white light. Here is the same page taken with infrared light, and it will be seen that the ink has been digitally successfully removed. Here they are in comparison side by side. Conventionally, one uses a millimeter thick electroluminescent panel to provide lighting for things like watermark research. And in this instance, the panel, the orange on the left, has been inserted under the page to be viewed and turned on. The result is that the watermark in the paper can be easily seen. However, some ink is still recorded because the white light does not pass through it. However, infrared has the facility of passing through some inks. And in this instance, from the same page, we can see in the middle panel there what the human eye sees. On the right-hand side is what use of a conventional light panel, white light emitting light panel, will reveal. The left one, however, is remarkably successful in that it has not seen the ink, and so the watermark, without any interruptions, can be easily detected. Here is the same process. White light on the top, which is what one human eye would see. Middle one, what the camera sees when infrared is used. And the bottom one is when the backlighting is used. It's to be noted that in order for a camera to be sensitive to infrared, it needs to be operated on in that the internal infrared filter needs to be removed. Here is this remarkable new asset. It's a light panel which emits infrared. This one measures 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, and it is a new invention. It is produced by a firm called Phosphotech in Georgia, USA. This image shows the light which is emitted from the light sheet and the various light panels. And normally one uses a filter on the camera to eliminate ordinary spectrum white lights, but to allow infrared to pass through. The first extant book printed in Estonian was ordered to be destroyed immediately it was produced. We shall now examine this. This map shows you where Estonia is, uncomfortably next to Russia, but next to its neighboring Finland, Latvia, and Lithuania. As you can read there, the book, although it was destroyed, apparently, in its entirety in 1535, in 1929, parts of it were discovered in parts of a later binding. We shall be examining this shortly more fully.
Fragments digitally. Comment assembler des fragments numériquement? In Photoshop. Grâce à Photoshop. Place two images on separate layers. Placez les deux images sur deux couches séparées, c'est-à-dire sur deux layers. It is necessary to remove the background. Il faut supprimer l'arrière-plan. Align the images. Aligner les images.
That process sounds straightforward. However, it does need to be repeated for the sake of clarity. So we'll now hear it once more.
Fragments digitally. Comment assembler des fragments numériquement? In Photoshop. Grâce à Photoshop. Place two images on separate layers. Placez les deux images sur deux couches séparées, c'est-à-dire sur deux layers. It is necessary to remove the background. Il faut supprimer l'arrière-plan. Align the images. Aligner les images.
We will now open up Photoshop and do that with two fragments from that 1535 book. Right, so we are now looking at a Photoshop image. In this image, as you can see on the left here, there are two distinct layers, two fragments. If we close off the lower one, we're now looking at the upper one, and we now want to eliminate the background. Now, happily, under Photoshop, under Help, we can look for help in removing the background. Remove background. It offers us this facility here. If I click on that, and choose this facility, the background has now been removed. We shall now look at the other fragment. Again, Help, Remove Background, choose that same facility. It's inconveniently disappeared. Help, remove background, use that, use that. And we've now removed the background from the other fragment. In order to give ourselves more space, we shall change the size of the background canvas to make it bigger. We'll now show both fragments, and we will now move this fragment. This is the moving tool up here. And this can now be moved. So you see that we have now successfully reunited fragments that have been separated since 1535, and we are now able to read them. Also to be noted that This shows that the fragments did not come from a printed book, but they came from a sheet before it had been turned into a book. So here we have one page, and here we have another page. And when they were printed, the paper would be cut and folded so as to produce an octavo. We go back to the PowerPoint. Here are those two images. And here they are joined together. This shows the making of a quarto. 4 pages are printed on one side. 4 pages are printed on the other side. After printing, two halves are cut. The lower half is folded. The upper half is rotated, folded, and placed under the first half. 129, 130, 131, 132, 133, 134, 135, 136. And in this way, the quarto is produced. This image shows the part we've just been looking at, the two fragments joined together, and it shows both sides of them. On the left one side and on the right the other. Now for an octavo, the watermark will most likely be divided among several pages. So here we have an octavo with 8 pages printed on one side and 8 pages on the other side of a sheet of paper, watermark indication by the letter P there. Greetings. This short video shows you how digital imaging can be used to reassemble, as it were, pages from a book such as a quarto or even an octavo, so we can recreate digitally the sheet as originally printed. We'll also be using backlighting so that watermarks can be revealed. And the first example is from Lithuania. And you can see here the first cover of the first book written Lithuanian. There are 2 copies in the world, one at Vilnius, which is this one, and also one at Torun. And every page was imaged using front lighting and then reassembled in this manner, so we can see the page as originally printed. There's the sheet as originally printed. Here it is with backlighting, and the watermark, as shown on the right-hand side, is divided between pages 116, 9, and the top right-hand one. And here is that watermark. In fact, it's a little crown which has been cut up because it's in the gutter of the book. Same crown is found in Königsberg, 1547, thanks to the Bernstein database of watermarks, as shown in these 2 images. Another one from Vilnius itself, 1547, and this is very clearly showing the arms of the city of Danzig. Same emblem found in Belarusia, watermarks there from further east, and even further to the east is Russia. These are the arms of the Count Sheremetov, immensely rich, well-established family, had 140,000 serfs, and he allowed one of them to set up a paper mill, which he did, and naturally enough, he used the same emblem for his watermark. And here is the watermark from the Sheremetov paper mill. Now, backlighting can be used to reveal these watermarks, and we'll now show more clearly how that was done with a specific example, in this case, once again, from Vilnius, the second gathering, gathering B. 8 pages on one side, 8 on the other, because it's an octavo. A ruler is in the middle, which can be moved for measurement purposes wherever we wish. And as we can see, if we turn off the front lighting, we can now see the sheet as originally printed had it been held up to the light. And again, as we look for the watermark, chain lines and laid lines are easy to be seen. The ruler could be moved to measure them. And in this case, the watermark's on the left-hand side of the sheet. Here it is, the little emblems of the crown. So that concludes this short video. It shows how digital imaging is being successfully used to examine old books, to reassemble sheets as originally printed, and to use watermark research to make some really encouraging and perhaps rather surprising results. Thank you. This is more about watermarks and their expected position in books. Here is a backlit image. And with care, one can see those little black lines, which is a negative image. So watermark would normally be white, but this has been flipped, inverted. This shape here and this shape here are, in fact, the two bottom parts of a Gothic letter P. They're 1.8 centimeters apart, as is the case here. Here is an improved, digitally or improved version of that same watermark. In this case, from a different piece of paper, a letter by Martin Luther, dated 1531. The improvement on the right is due to subtracting one image from another digitally. This slide shows some of the benefits of using watermark imaging and backlighting, and of course that's even more successful now we have use of infrared. Once again, I have reassembled pages from a book. This is the first book printed in Finnish. This is the copy found in Uppsala in Sweden. The book was actually printed in Sweden. And the notable thing here is that, as the red arrow shows, there is printing at the top, which also belongs to the base of the other page. Now, this indicates that that book is actually made up of two books. And you can see from the upper portion there, the writing is the same as the lower portion, which proves that that book cannot have been made from one sheet of, that gathering cannot have been made from one book, one sheet of paper, but must have been made from two. Similarly, it's intriguing to see the watermark. And in the Uppsala case on the left, it's what's known as an armillary sphere. And that has also been found in the same book in Helsinki. And I found the same paper recorded in Zaragoza in Spain. Now, the significance of this is that the paper was produced in France, as shown there. First recorded use is 1550 in the Bordeaux Angoulême area, and later it has been found in other places, as shown there, Zaragoza in Spain, Rostock in Poland, Germany, and then further to the east in Rostov and Rizhov in Russia. Now this shows the not untypical way that paper has followed trade routes, and just as paper has followed trade routes, so ideas have followed trade routes. Now that concludes my talk.